Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Live. This is our Star Trek Weekly edition. This week we will be discussing Strange New World Season 2, Episode 4, Among the Lotus Eaters. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, it was a great episode, but of the 4 that we've seen this season, probably the least of my favorite ones. And that's the other 3 set such a high bar. More character development, so there's nothing wrong there. But once again, like I said, if I had to measure it up, this would be number 4 out of the 4. With the other ones being a little bit ahead of it. But before I get going, let's go ahead and bring in our fellow Trekkies. I am the only one that's got a live face today. Hello, everyone.
I just got up, so.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
Hero.
If I can show this face that is designed for radio, everybody can show their face. All right. So, but that's okay. That's okay. I understand.
My system is rebelling against me. So,
well, because it knows what you look like. I understand. I can agree with your system. All right,
William.
All right, guys. Like and subscribe both the Poindexter Lounge and the Sci-Fi Center. YouTube.com/Sci-Fi Center. This broadcast is simulcasting through both networks, so give you not some love and come over and help me out too. So, like I said, I can actually reach 1,000 viewers before the age of 78. Right now, that's the goal. Either at age 78 or before 78. I think I'm gonna pull it off. So I got like 30 years. So you figure if I get a new subscriber every 2-3 months, year, pick it up. All right. Hi, Aaron. How are you doing? I have been fighting 100-degree heat and or sinuses this whole week. Man, Wednesday, I thought I was just my head was just gonna shoot off from my neck and go into outer space, and just add heat to that. I'm like, oh, good grief. So yeah. But enough about me.
Hey, Aaron.
How you doing, Alabaster?
Happy.
All right, cool. So we all watched the episode.
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think? I'll start with Thade, and then we'll go around. We'll go Thade, Stella, and then Vince.
Okay, so this episode, like you said, not a bad episode, but not one of the best, not in my opinion, for this season. Took too long to get to a point, and there were a couple of things that kind of grated on me that happened in the episode. I mean, I get it; they were interesting and kind of funny, but yeah, when you know that there's something affecting your memory, you take the ship out of the system.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. You take the ship away from the asteroids that are causing the radiation and you get out of there for a bit,
And they figured that out early on. That's what got me, is they figured out that might be the case early enough on that they, unlike the people down on the planet, could actually get away. I thought that kind of bothered me too. So yeah, I agree there.
But so yeah, that was my biggest trouble with the episode. Also, we just need more. Okay, so we've had the Spock episode, which was the first episode. We've had the Una episode, and we've had the La'an episode. We need an episode explaining a little bit more about Ortegas. Not that I have a problem with Melissa Navia's character. Love her to death. But she's becoming kind of one note. And we need a little bit more about her character.
Yeah, they got to flesh her out a little more. Her not knowing how to get to her own quarters, and then, the computer telling her who she is to come back, and then going back up to the bridge is kind of like, okay. And Thade and I are doing a rewatch of TOS. We are actually up to Menagerie Part 1. And the Enterprise does have an autopilot. It needs to be commanded to, but it does have an autopilot. Plus, the one thing that was stuck in my head was what Pike was saying in the cage My only yeoman and 2 others dead, 7 injured. Of course, it didn't. In that old episode with Christopher Hunter, there was no mention of Spock being injured and the consequences of not doing a thorough job in recovering all the bodies. So that answered that question that I couldn't remember.
I
This
mean,
was definitely the weakest of the stories out of the 4 this season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad episode, but it didn't. It missed some notes, and as a cohesive whole, not as good as the first 3. But that's to be expected. You can't maintain everything, and someone's going to say it's filler, but yeah, it's not. It'll serve a purpose when we see all 10 episodes.
Yeah, you don't have 10. You don't have filler when you only have 10 episodes. Every episode's got to mean something.
It's addressing something. We just don't know what it is yet.
It was nice that they attached it to the cage. That was great, but there just needed to be a little bit more, in my opinion. There would need to be a little bit more meat on the bone.
Yeah.
It was like we got a plate of ribs, but they were a little lackluster, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, it's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Other than that, it was a good episode. Vince.
Yeah, I'm pretty much mirroring your guys' thoughts. Like, I thought it was a really good episode, but like there were some like head scratching stuff. Like, why couldn't you use the autopilot, on the ship? Or why would you go toward what you think is causing?
I mean, it shouldn't have gotten down to Spock. Una should have just said, "Screw it, we got to take care of ourselves first." Because she's the one. She even has a line like, "Can you imagine what's going, on with everyone on the planet?" It's like, oh.
Right. I did like the idea of the episode though. Like, if you've ever been around somebody who has dementia, so like that you could like connect those two and. But yeah, like overall, like I enjoyed it. It was definitely not my favorite episode of the season, but it wasn't bad.
I hated the protagonist, that the king guy, the yeoman. I found him useless. I found him useless the acting guy that did the guy playing him did a great job, of course, but I just found the character to be absolutely useless for the most part. This whole episode reminded me of Memento, which is I'm not a big Nolan fan to begin with, but of all the Nolan movies, that's my least favorite, and it's just a frustrating watch. That it's because you obviously know what's going on and they don't. It just messes with my head to the point of I can't enjoy it as much as I can with other scenarios. But like I said, even with this, even with this episode not being the best, it was more character development as far as they had to overcome something. And every time the Strange New World cast has to overcome something, they develop a little bit more. And you get to learn a little bit more. Even if the episode itself as a whole wasn't the best, there are characters in there that you learn. Mabinga is, as a pre-existing character, that not a lot of people know about. Every time he goes out there, you gain a new amount of respect for him. And you see where Nurse Chapel will have evolved into when you first see her, because she's been basically mentored by a guy like that, and she's been to war with a guy like that. So I think he gets better with everyone. So
I was gonna say my favorite 2 parts of the episode were Pike beat the crap out of that guy. Like seeing him unhinged, I thought was really cool, and the pilot Ortega is like remembering that she's a pilot and keeps saying I'm a pilot, and because that tied back to like the beginning of the episode when she was disappointed, like
we didn't really know more about her. She's supposed to be this hotshot pilot that fought during the Klingon War. What else?
Yeah. And there's still time. Still time. I think out of all the characters so far, I think Bing has been fleshed out a lot. I know a lot about him. I know he's fought in a war. I know he's hyped himself up on some drug that he used. I know he's got scars. I know that he's got his daughter, the whole situation with his daughter being rescued. So I don't know. I mean, I would love more of him, but wow, I've got more of him than I have Ortegas. But I think they're going to get to her.
Well, there's actually a joke kind of at the first part, and I don't know if anybody else really caught it, but whenever Ortegas is not able to go down. I think we got a bait and switch with this because a lot of people thought this was going to be the Ortegas episode for the season, but I think we got a bait and switch on it. Because there's a point at the first where she's going to go, and then Pike tells her she's got to stay on the ship. But Pike looks at her and goes, "But we'll get you next time."
Yeah.
I think they kind of gave a meta joke there. Like,
Well, she's
hold on a
always
minute.
gonna go down, yeah.
Yeah, hold on a minute. This is not her episode yet. You know, we're getting there, but it's not hers yet.
Plus her position. If you look at the original Star Trek, and if you look at all the Star Treks in general, that position of the helmsman, unless it's being manned by, like, okay, let's say for instance, Next Generation, unless it was Wesley Crusher or Data, and Data was not always there, it was some unknown person that was really never developed. And if you look at the original series, even though you had Sulu really, if you look at those episodes, there's very little that he actually takes the forefront, and actually much to his chagrin of George Takei, because he's like, we were always in the shadows. But even though they had significant time, they never really had too many things about him. And if you look at a lot of the shows in general, that position alone is kind of underserved as far as story goes. So that's probably something that they can improve,
Well, we're still going to have several years of her because the handoff of her position, helmsman, will go to Sulu eventually. It's like, we're still in a holding pattern waiting for Scotty to show up.
I think they only have another year with this crew. Because if you look, look where Kirk is right now, rank wise, and look where
they were going to do. Was it 5 to 7 seasons?
Yeah, they are, but I don't think it's going to be this crew. I don't
think
it's
they will be.
They'll change out slowly.
Yeah. But they still have to change them out slowly. Like I said, I love Carol Kane. I'm glad we have Pella, but eventually Scotty's going to have to show up.
I think he shows up soon. You know why? Because you figure, I'm looking at where Pike is in his career, and he's at that point. He's getting really close
to being a fleet captain.
To where he gets fleet captain, and he gets reassigned. Because they're talking about, if you look in the episode, they're talking about promotions to Commodore and fleet captain and things like that. And this is the time, if you look at his career in the Prime universe, where he leaves the Enterprise really soon, and Kirk takes over. Because remember, something happens, and Kirk goes from lieutenant to captain. That's one thing him and Picard have in common, is they both went from lieutenant to captain. They were never lieutenant commander. They were never full commander. They went from lieutenant, to full captain. So Kirk is. I think that you're going to start seeing, and this is what makes this season and maybe the next one so interesting, because you should start seeing that transition to where the shows split up. Now, my question is, are they going to follow Strange New Worlds with Captain Kirk, or are we going to be leaving the Enterprise and following Pike?
Okay, so according to the timeline, all right. Pike's accident happens in 2266. Okay. Where we're sitting now in the timeline is like 2262.
But that's all changed, though. Remember?
It's in flux a bit.
No, this is
even Spock said that accident is 7 years in the future.
This is an updated timeline, by the way, that I'm reading from. I'm reading from the news.
Oh yeah. But his accident. Now remember, though, his accident happens well after he's left the Enterprise, though. So at what point does he leave the ship to become this? Because he's been at that position where he gets injured for quite a while, if I understand. So they could change all this. I mean, it's all, and I'm just curious, at what point are we going to start seeing the transition from this crew to, because when you see Spock in, the major timeline, the one that we all grew up with, he's still a lieutenant. So it's a short. It's going to be interesting to see what that window of time is. I don't know. I'm just guessing. It's kind of intriguing at this point. So I'm wondering what kind of liberties they're going to take from this point on, because they've taken a lot, which I don't have any problem with.
Yeah, I mean, even though, like I said, it looks like, especially with streaming, it's like a 5 season deal, but that could still take like a year and a half in between each airing.
Yeah,
So that's
or
good
the
cost
time it
of
could be the one episode could be taken over 3 months. I mean, we could, their time, the way they give us the time could
yeah.
be like, you know what, one year,
Mhm.
2 years is 1 year for us. I mean, so I'm
I mean,
curious.
they're dancing around the timeline and the fact that we had, time travel, and we're going to have another one whenever the Cerritos shows up.
This is
With
gonna be hilarious. All
yeah.
right, let's hit some of these chats real quick because I've ones that you've highlighted because I keep forgetting at the chats there
Hold on, let
sometimes.
me bring it back up to the top.
Uh, all
Chappy.
right.
Question: as a diehard Star Trek fan, how do you feel when some old Star Trek fans say Star Trek is controlled by morons and idiots?
Uh,
Idiots, especially with Robert Meyer Burnett, which I know you had on the show.
First of
I
all,
just oh good.
Chappie, we don't mention other YouTubers here. I know what you meant to do here, but we don't mention other YouTubers. We have a reason for that. We don't like to cause drama with other YouTubers. So,
Hmm.
in the future, can you please not mention other YouTubers? Thank you.
Hmm. Well,
I
for
just
go ahead.
I disagree with the sentiment that some of those older Trekkers. You know how I feel. I have a name for them. I have a term for them. I call them old Trek fan. I love the fact that we are all Trek fans, but at the same time, I think the opinions of old Trek fan were existed at the detriment to Star Trek in general. I don't like the closed mindedness that mentality takes sometimes. I think that attitude does not allow for Star Trek to grow and be handed down to different generations. I see Star Trek as a prism that everybody gets what gets a different point of view depending on what direction that they're looking at it. I don't think Trek is monolithic, and I think some of these guys say, well, no, this is it, you can't mess around with this, and I'm like, yes, you can. It's a TV show. It's a TV show that is going to be handed down from one generation to the other. And once it's put into the hands of that generation, it is for them. It's not always going to be for us.
Well, it's also okay. So people want to hold the all powerful canon in order. You're talking about a series of shows and movies that have changed the timeline upwards of 70 plus times. Okay, you've gone to different timelines, you've changed timelines, you've changed this and that. Dude, canon's gonna be all over the place. Now there's a few Nexus events that have to happen, but they always reinsert themselves in the timeline. So it's kind of a I don't know. Watching a science fiction show, you can't always demand that canon stay the same. Canon's going to be fluid when you're dealing with time travel. Sorry, that's just a fact.
Um, and again, as far as I can tell, I'm 58 years old. I was in diapers when the cage was being what you call it, approved at Desilu. If you want a gatekeeper, I should be it. I've come up with a saying for myself, saying I'd rather have some form of Star Trek in my life than without. Because I do like the stories that they tell. Gene Roddenberry's original vision of, the wagon train to the stars. Um, Morality plays, presented in a science fiction format.
I think before we go on to the next question, I'll leave it with my final word on this. Is it belongs to everyone.
Yeah.
Star Trek, Star Wars, all these things, it's not an audience of one. You have to
Mhm.
understand that where you're coming from, and when I hand this over to a 20-year-old kid who I want to grow up and be the 48-year-old that is embraced in keeping Star Trek alive, it belongs to everyone. So everybody has a right to their opinion, but at the end of the day, it belongs to everybody. So go ahead. Next question.
This one's for Thade. Hello.
Sorry, I had to step away for a second. Okay, so to address this situation, I gave that channel back to Brodan, for a couple of different reasons. So that wasn't me that happened to. Brodan caught a strike because of some stuff that was said on a video. Um, but thank you for thinking about me. I have got a couple other channels, a couple of other things that I'm working on besides working with William here at the Sci-Fi Center. That I'm working on. I'm working on a Star Wars lore channel, and I'm thinking about I'm thinking about doing a kind of creepy pasta horror story channel where I read like old free use horror stories and some Reddit stuff and all that because those channels seem to grow. So that's kind of what, and plus it fits my mood because I'm an old horror fan and all that. So that's really what I'm working on a sideline as well as working with the Sci-Fi Center Lounge. So Sci-Fi Center Live. So yeah, that's where I stand right now with my own channels and stuff. But anyway, back to the Star Trek.
Star Trek. It's not even close for me.
uh, to answer this question, I am both a Star Wars and a Star Trek fan. Star Trek because Star Trek is great. Star Wars because it was always a nostalgic thing with my dad because I saw every one of the Star Wars movies with my dad. Um, Plus, I just like the lore and history of Star Wars. Uh, but again, being a Star Trek fan is kind of comes with the territory for a lot of nerds. So, and I like how Star Trek influences technology in the real world. So, it's also got a fascinating history, and it seems to be fluid and change a lot. But it's great. Stella, Vince, anybody want to answer this question besides me,
Oh,
William?
I like Star Wars. Don't get me wrong, but like for me, if the question is between the two, I like
You want to
Star
go,
Trek a
Vince?
lot better.
Yeah, for me it's Star Trek, but I love both. Um, Star Trek for me because it's based on us, and what we could be in the future. Star Wars, I like the fantasy element. Obviously, you can see my avatars Boba Fett and myself.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love both, but if I had to pick one, it'd be Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm both. Sorry, Chappie. I love both franchises. More Star Trek because one of the things that I thought was really damn cool was when the TOS cast was starting to do most movie pictures, and George Lucas's company ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, were begging George to do the special effects for Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. So I always thought that was pretty damn cool. How everyone grew up on Star Trek, ended up working on Star Wars, and thanks to technology, they're like, we got to do the Star Trek stuff, and George said yes.
All right, hey, Dave, you got any of the pictures from this episode you want to throw up, or did you get a chance?
Yeah, give me just a second.
Oh, but they're okay.
Uh,
Questions while we
Okay.
wait. Yeah, how come we don't see anyone eating pizzas in Star Trek? Good question, because we know they had taco night.
give it some time. Pike's cooking every damn episode, so.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he was cooking Italian food this week. So
Okay, so let me share this screen. Do, do, do. Okay, so here we have a. Where's my? Can we just do it like this? Here we have a picture of them at the start of the episode when they're getting ready with the Rigelian dress and all that to go on the away mission. Of course,
Yeah, they had on.
we've got Lon and Ortegas and Doctor Mbanga. Let's see. Here we have Pike dressed in the Rigelian uniform. And here's the totem over here that told the story of what happened to the planet.
for those of you guys who I'm pretty sure you guys all watched the episode, but this is a planet that they had been to before, and it ended disastrously. So they had spotted a Starfleet Delta from orbit, and they were going down to see what they could do to wipe out. There you go, right there. They're going down there to see if they could wipe out any form of their technology so that it didn't further infect that species.
Yeah, because we're still shifting from General Order 1 to Prime Directive.
That's right. And they took care to not call it the Prime Directive yet, which I thought was a good attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Well,
here we have the perpetrator of the problems on the planet when they get there.
A guy named Zach.
This is a guy named Zach that was a Yaleman that was thought dead that got left behind. He made himself king because of the technology that he had with him of the Regilian people. Let's see here. Here we have one of the mine workers interpreting the totem stone for them, talking about the asteroid, of course, that hit the planet thousands of years before that caused the effect from the radiation. What I found was unique is the radiation on the planet was being caused by the fact that the asteroid that hit the planet was still pretty much intact, which scientifically doesn't hold water, but it was an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something different.
And here we have Ortegas and Spock piloting the ship when they both didn't know who the heck they were. Because of that effect.
Well, here's a question I have. Why he programmed those pads to let them know who they really were, right?
Uh-huh.
Why didn't he put in the pad, hey, get away from the radiation?
Weren't thinking that far ahead.
Yeah.
And maybe he was already affected.
And I honestly think that goes back to what we said earlier, where it's kind of where the story was a little flimsy. Is they didn't take the ship away from the radiation problem.
Again, Una, that should have been Una's first command when she started not feeling well. Una was the one that should have, taken them out of there, not Spock.
And here we have the crew wandering around the corridors because they don't remember who they are, including Nurse Chapel here in the foreground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I was waiting for someone to walk out an airlock, because it seems to be that level of amnesia.
So yeah, it's one of those things of there's a lot of questions there. Why? Again, it goes back to that story. Why did you not take the ship away from the radiation?
Kind of trouble,
it just seemed weird to me. But like I said, I can suspend the belief to a certain thing. But this story, it was just a little bit on the weaker side out of the four. But like I said, we're comparing this episode.
The slight imbalance that I don't think they fleshed out fast enough, and they thought maybe we wouldn't notice. But yeah, this one didn't sit right.
Okay,
again,
so do we have any more actors?
Well, let's get this one out of the way.
Questions, I mean. Okay, so Dr. Mbenga, yeah, but remember too, Aaron, Dr. Mbenga was in an episode or two of the original series.
Yeah, Mbenga was always there because they had to have a specialist for Vulcans. And from what they told me, Akiva Goldsmith actually went and dug out the original pitch for Star Trek.
In fact, that's where Ortegas comes from, is the original Star Trek pitch from Gene to CBS. So
not CBS.
Not CBS, NBC. Oh,
no, to Desilu.
To Desilu. Sorry.
That Paramount took over. Yeah. And actually, it wasn't supposed to be Bones. Again, I'm watching Menagerie. The doctor that was making a drink for Captain Pike was Dr. Philip Royce.
Philip Boyce, yeah.
Yeah. Because you might tell your bartender things that you won't tell your doctor. So I thought that was good.
I just put into the chat room the Memory Alpha version of his bio, and you'll see his original form, his original actor that played him. Look at that fro, boy.
This is a question for all of you. What actor or actresses do you wish to join the Star Trek universe? Any and any, because you're finding out who is actually a fan of Star Trek. They'll actually make themselves available going, hi, can I be on your show?
Amelia Clark.
Possibly.
I would like to see Amelia Clark. Hell, just off the top of my head, I'd really like to see Henry Cavill come in and play like a captain of a starship or something. That'd be cool.
Oh, Henry would love it. Henry's a Trekkie.
I'd want him to play a Romulan or a Uber Romulan guy. I'd like him to be the Romulan in the future.
the temporal Cold War Romulan.
Yep, that'd be awesome.
Can't think of anybody really off the top of my head, so I'll go with what you guys said.
But
there's
yeah,
a lot of celebrity Trekkies out there, so.
I agree with Stella. Anybody and everybody that's willing to join.
And they'll take any little part, too. I mean, you got Mae Jemison, that was an actual astronaut. Was it Prince Abdullah before he became king?
Stephen Hawking.
Jordan. Yeah, Stephen Hawking. It's just great. Anyone and everyone that wants to be there. What would you guys name your own personal starships that you're running?
Starbucks.
Oh.
I actually play a game called Star Trek Online, and I've named a couple of ships. I have the USS Trafalgar. I don't remember what I called my Reliant class vessel. And then I've got a Klingon bird of prey called the Icarus.
My main ship
There you go.
so is the USS Space Wizard.
I think Starbucks was better, but all right.
Next one.
Why has it taken so long to get Star Trek 4 with Chris Pine to get it off the ground?
Money.
Money for one, for two,
No
lack
script.
of interest in the Kelvin timeline, and three, no script.
Yeah.
But the biggest one is those are all there, right? So the biggest one, and they've brought this up. When you look at the people who were playing in the 2008 or 2009 Star Trek, where they were in their careers, they're worth a lot more. Chris Pine was a somebody, but he wasn't that kind of somebody. Hemsworth was not Thor yet. He did not demand Thor money. And Zachary Quinto, all these guys have gone on to much bigger things where their price has gone up. So now when you're trying to negotiate these things just to get your main star is a much more mega star in comparison to what he was then. And if you want to correct the timeline, which is what that story was going to be about, you have to have Kirk's father in there, who is now demanding Thor money for probably not in even a whole movie. And they just don't know if there's going to be, if they want to invest that much. And then the directors and the script are part of that. But if you had your cast, your cast, that's a lot of leverage you can use as a studio to get everybody else on board. But they can't even really negotiate, the kind of money. And they're probably going to want their market value. Chris Pine's he's not going to want Kirk nobody money or guy playing Kirk money. Chris Hemsworth is not going to want to play. I was a captain of a ship for 6 minutes. Kirk money. He's going to want Thor. He's going to want Molinar numbers. So those two guys alone, Zoe Saldana, all these guys have elevated their pay grades to the point where might have an issue signing them up.
Yeah, the money, time, and everything. And again, I don't know, was it a year or two back? They did a false nomer saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to start shooting Star Trek 4 at the end of the year," and all the actors are like, "Really? You didn't tell us?"
Yeah.
And again, not a good sign.
Quentin Tarantino was going to direct at one point.
Yeah, that was a mess. So
I think it'll happen. I just don't know when.
Yeah, I mean that it's still on the back burner. Just don't know how long it's going to take, especially with the writer's strike. Again, first and foremost, you need a script before you hire your director and your cast.
And then, like I said,
Oh,
if there's no chance of you negotiating the money with your cast, and
Yeah.
you're on a boat without orders.
Yep, no orders at all. Which alien race from Star Trek would you like to see come back?
To be honest with you, we've got a healthy helping of just about every one of them.
Yeah.
The main one I would want to see come back for this particular series would be the Romulans, obviously, because I think that the part that they play. But I don't want to see the Borg ever again. I've had enough Klingons. I mean, Klingons are pretty much, they never really left. All the other aliens that they have, for the most part, were not key parts of, they played bit parts in the story. So I've had enough of those, but the mainline ones that I would like to see come back for this particular story. Now, if we were talking about a different series, like Star Trek Discovery, we're talking a totally different conversation, because there are alien species that haven't been seen for like 900 years in some cases. But for Strange New Worlds, I would like to see the Romulans inserted into this one. I mean, more so than they have been.
Yeah, because I mean, we're getting more Gorn than we ever thought we'd ever get.
Yeah, but they've
much
now become
to old Trek disdain. Oh my goodness!
But now they've become the Xenogorn, and they've become. I mean, even Anson Mount said that the Gorn have now become a horror thing, and that's the angle they're playing with the Gorn, which I think makes them more interesting than a guy in a rubber lizard suit.
You're going and moving slowly.
Which old Trek fan wants us to stick with too, by the way. Old Trek fan wants the guy, the iguana-looking thing that can't turn its head. Yeah, I want that. I much rather listen. When modern technology progresses, you go with it. All right, so that's what I'm on for. In the way the Gorn is like the overarching story. It's like it's not an episode yet, like it was last season, but you know they're headed towards it. I mean, High Command they're ready for it. They're getting ready. So
yeah, they made the Gorn in the show look more like. I know you don't play the game, William, but the Gorn in Star Trek Online are way more in line with the Strange New Worlds and the old show ever was.
I've heard that, and you know what? I think that their evolution. I'm telling you, I think the Romulans are behind all of this stuff to some point. I think they've advanced evolution. They're doing with the Gorn possibly what they were going to do with the Klingons in Broken Arrow and Enterprise. They're advancing them to the point where at every point that the Federation has to run into something, they're not just facing what they would have faced originally. They're facing something because the future guy from the Romulan guy from the future knows how this all turns out. So he knows what weaknesses. I'm like, oh, they beat the slow cardboard Gorn, so let me give him this. You know what? These Klingons are this, so let me screw him up to that. He has everything in front of him. So I think that everything that you run into could literally be traced back to that future guy Romulan.
Yeah, the two.
That's just me being I'm gonna get a foil hat and put it on, like a foil crown. Put it on when I start doing conspiracies.
The two races I'd love to see come back in any series, and they're both from Voyager, and that's the Voth and the Vodwar. The Voth is like the dinosaur people that evolved here and ended up in the Delta Quadrant.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Voth. The Voth was the other intelligent race that evolved from Earth, but they left right before the cataclysm that took out the dinosaurs.
And they also ended up becoming a main protagonist in Star Trek Online.
Voyager, right?
Yeah.
Well, they were a major antagonist. Well, they were partially a major antagonist in Voyager, but they also become an antagonist in Star Trek Online too.
Okay. For those of you guys that have not played Star Trek Online, so some of these instances you don't know about, one of these days we're gonna have to dive into that, because I haven't played the game, but it's not because I don't like it. It's because I'm not a gamer and haven't at the time. But
Yeah,
being that we're a Star Trek channel, it might be advantageous for us to jump into that one
I
day.
will say with the game,
half of us play it, half of us don't. So
yeah,
that'll be the Vincent Thade show.
Go ahead and say what you were saying, Vince.
I was just gonna say it's a game where even though it's online, you really don't have to play with other people. You can do all of this stuff, single player, except for the end game stuff.
All right, we're gonna run through these chat. I am not.
I am,
and
I think Fade is too. Wherever he went.
Hold on,
I don't hate the show. I don't hate the show. It's not my thing. I think the humor is silly. I think it's a silly show, but like I said, I'm glad it's out there because I've done enough people like it. It's out there for them. It's just not for me.
Yes, I am a Lower Decks fan, and Chappie, two of the characters from Lower Decks are going to end up on Strange New Worlds this season, and two of the characters from Strange New Worlds are going to end up on Lower Decks their next season. So,
and that instance alone might make me a fan. Just the utter ridiculousness of this.
Yeah,
That's cool.
give it a gander. I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's contemporary to next generation. So
yeah, I've watched it. It's just like it just doesn't. It hasn't connected to me yet. But
okay.
just still time.
I'm guessing you're not a Rick and Morty fan either, Warren.
I go more than Lower Decks. More than Lower Decks. I've actually, I've jumped into Rick and Morty later on and the character development of Rick and Morty. There was a season 4 finale that I watched by accident because I accidentally recorded it, and that was the first ever episode of Rick and Morty that I ever watched. It was the one where his daughter is the clone, and he doesn't know which one, and they all just leave him. And you just get from that episode alone that this guy has taken a lot of risks, and he's starting to get bear the consequences of him being this mad scientist, and that he's put his entire family in danger on like every episode. So I could connect with that a little bit more. The grossness of it, the green shit that's always coming out of his mouth. I mean, all that stuff, and just the nastiness of it. That's kind of like the Ren and Snippiness of it that I just ignore. But I've watched a few episodes of that, and I could see me getting more into that. With Lower Decks, it's like there's just a certain type of Star Trek that I'm into, and Lower Decks just isn't it for me. It's more exhibition than anything else. But like I said, you're never going to hear me say I want that show gone or canceled. It's out there for the Trekkies that want it. Enjoy it. I just haven't made that connection. But like I said, I'm open to that connection being made. It just hasn't been made yet for me.
Yeah, that's pretty much my feelings on Prodigy. Like I tried to get into it, and it's just.
I love Prodigy. See,
but I would never want to. I mean, I'm sad that it got canceled. But
it's probably going to get its second. I think somebody's going to pick it up, but we'll have to wait and see. Food and drink. Oh shit, dude. This would be Frappuccinos. I'd be getting, like I said, right now, every day I have one Frapp a day. Keeps the psychos away. So what I would get, it would be a venti Frappuccino, double blended, no whipped cream, sugar-free vanilla, 3 ad shots. That's what I
as for me, this would be a 7 and 7 for all of you that understand alcoholic mixed drinks, and lasagna just about every chance I get.
Oh.
Weirdly enough, I was gonna say 7 and 7 before I decided to say steak and an IPA.
What is 7 and 7? Because I'm the non-alcohol drinker on the panel. So
It's
damn, 7 and 7.
It's Seagram's 7 with 7-Up mixer.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be hanging out with Anna Troy. I'd be hot fudge sundae all the way.
I'd probably gain like 400 pounds if I had a replicator.
Yeah, but we have
Just
a gym.
I'd get up. I just wake up in the middle of the night and be just like, you know what? Just make me spaghetti and meatballs, just because it would be so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think
Next
the
question.
replicators made to make it all healthy or something.
Yeah, but you still eat enough healthy stuff. You can still eat 500 pounds.
Not every meal, but
Oh, absolutely, numbers. Absolutely. I could see Denny Villeneuve could direct a Laverne and Shirley movie, and I would go see it.
Dude, could you imagine how cinematic a Denis Villeneuve Star Trek movie would be?
It would be huge. It would be like Dune.
I mean, just that second trailer for Dune Part 2 was cinematic in itself and amazing, and that's just the trailer. Could you
Old Trek fan would shit rockets at the sight of a Denis Villeneuve Trek. They would be like, "This isn't." Oh, they would. I could hear it now. I could hear it now because he would do it on his scale that it would literally change Star Trek. It would change Star Trek. Once you watch what I think he would do with Star Trek, I think it would change how the rest of the world, especially new Trek fans, would see Star Trek, and that would set the bar. An old Trek fan will be running through the village with torches like they were chasing Frankenstein. He'll be public enemy number one, and I'll love every minute of it.
It would definitely be a problem.
The weird thing is, Zack Snyder was at the Strange New Worlds premiere.
Yeah, he was.
So I am thinking Paramount might be talking to Zack.
Dude,
That's
could you
just my
imagine?
personal opinion.
Could you imagine a Zack Snyder Star Trek movie?
Yeah, an old Trek fan.
Better than the Quentin Tarantino one.
They
And
would,
I
old
like
Trek fan
Tarantino.
would,
Yeah.
old Trek fan would blow themselves a new asshole. They would
Yeah,
literally be like,
and I'd be there telling them, calm the F down, you'll be fine.
I would be like, you're the buffalo. Here's the cliff. You can go off of the cliff with the, or you can turn around and go with the rest of the herd. We've had, listen, our generation has had our entire lives worth of Star Trek that we enjoy. I am okay with this thing evolving into something else. I want to be 90 and look back at just some mind-blowing Trek and be like, wow, dude, that's what I've seen my entire life,
I could see a Zack Snyder Trek cinematically, like harkening back to old Nicholas Meyer movies, the Nicholas Meyer Trek movies. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and just to name Zack Snyder, you would bring up people who aren't even watching Star Trek that just want to crap on him. What is he doing to Star Trek? What is Star Trek? I don't know, but what's Zack Snyder doing? I can see it now. Boy, we'd have to put on our body armor for that.
Going back to something Stella mentioned, I was never really on board with the idea of Tarantino doing a Trek movie. I like his movies, but
not with Star Trek. I was like,
I think here's the thing, though. I never want to get into the trap of letting a director's previous work exclude him from doing something completely different the next time out because of what Jonathan Demme taught me. Married to the Mob, the same guy who made rom-coms and Married to the Mob, a movie that I wouldn't watch even if he did the whole Clockwork Orange eyelid thing for me. I would not watch that movie. But yet that same guy did Silence of the Lambs. So I think at some core, a storyteller is a storyteller, period.
Yeah.
I really think I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't get the Clinton because I really think that he would have been capable. It's kind of like the James Gunn effect. Everybody thinks James Gunn's going to do the dick jokes, and he's done plenty of dick jokes. Don't get me wrong, but I think at the basis of it, a storyteller can tell a story. It's just what's asked of him. I think if you ask Quentin Tarantino to apply what you do to this, like I'm the producer, I'm Akiva Goldsmith, or I'm Metallic, all these guys, I say, apply you to this and let me see what you got. I'm interested to see the outcome. Now, I can understand why people will be like, okay, are we going to get like Klingon motherfucker? Do you speak it? I can see where people are going with it, but I'm interested to see.
With Peter Jackson. I mean, with Lord of the Rings, he did like weird zombie movies back in New Zealand before he did Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And now,
Dead Alive. That was him, right?
Yeah.
That movie is disgusting.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen Meet the Feebles? That's even weirder.
He did a movie called Meet the Feebles that Stella's still trying to get me to watch. And from what I've seen of it, it is just weird, disgusting, and but this is the guy we're talking about that did this sweeping cinematic vistas of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And now, when it comes down to a Tarantino Star Trek movie, I could see it being like a down and dirty kind of, I could see him doing like smuggler type Star Trek or like dude, what would be really interesting from Tarantino would be him doing a Maquis movie.
That wouldn't be bad.
Or somewhere where you took the Enterprise into unincorporated, like if you read the New Frontier books, that's the Federation. Mackenzie Calhoun is a Federation captain, and the Excalibur is a Federation ship, but it's in an area of space where Federation rules don't apply. So they're kind of down and dirty. So I can see it. At the very least, my curiosity has been piqued.
This question here: what would a Zack Snyder Star Trek movie look like? It would be very cinematic for one.
Yes.
For two, I could see like Well, I don't know if you could get any prettier than some of the openings of these shows recently, man.
Yeah, Strange New Worlds is
Mhm.
an amazing opening.
Yeah, I
But
mean, all I know is that Zach finally looked at some, AI walls a year or two back, and if he's thinking of stepping into Star Trek, um, it's going to be a lot of action, lots of heartfelt stories, and I love Zack Snyder's style, so I'm good. And Star Trek would be in good hands. I don't know what he would do because he has to, outdo himself a bit. So I leave it to open interpretation. Again, it's like even though I'm like sticking it, Quentin Tarantino, I don't know, but I wouldn't have mind seeing it. I love his movies, so it wouldn't be a bad fit. I just hope it works. And
I
if
think
Zach is in talks with Paramount, I hope it works out.
I think he would give us something new because
Yeah.
I think he would use this as an opportunity. But you know what I do think would be consistent with everything else he's done? I still think he would give us mythology of some sort. And there's a lot of mythology in Star Trek that he could exploit.
Yeah.
So
Well,
man, that would be great if he ever got
you
around
know,
to it.
I'm still
something
waiting for his
that's
North mythology stuff on Netflix. I mean,
something that has always been kind of like brought up in different Star Trek properties that I would like to know more about. There's this thing called the Takan Empire
mm,
that's mentioned first in Next Generation. They'd mentioned it in a couple of the video games and stuff like that. And I would like to, you talk about sweeping mythology kind of thing. I would like to see like a storyline take place or explore the Takan Empire, and I think that would be something that Zack Snyder could do.
Or the Tholan Empire, even though they've Enterprise did a little bit more. I would like to see them. They're one of the more mysterious. I would really love to see one of
yeah.
these directors just take something that we know that's out there but hasn't been exploited and just go to town with it. So
How about
yeah, I'm all right.
I'd add the Iconians to that list as well.
Iconians are
I'm gonna go
interesting too.
on this question 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
I
just
think
Gotta be
he
here.
I think he could show up as Commander Shran, but he would be incredibly old because Andorians
Yeah.
only live about 140 years.
hmm
So given that he was probably in his 30s or 40s as Commander Shran in Enterprise, and this is about 100 years after Enterprise, give or take, I would say he would be an old Andorian. But I could see him being
He'd be
like
he'd be an admiral.
he'd be an admiral or something of that nature, whatever the admiral equivalent is an Andorian. But that would be cool. I love
No,
Jeffrey
he would
Combs.
probably be a Starfleet admiral.
Oh, he probably would be actually,
Yeah, he'd be a
considering
yeah.
he liked the idea of Starfleet.
And Andorians and Vulcans they were
Yeah.
key. And I'm assuming if we ever learned his story, that particular Andorian is probably key to the formation of the Federation and Starfleet. So, or as far as bringing the Federation and Starfleet to where it is. So
That was
yeah,
always the rumor.
yeah.
hmm
All right. If you had a weapon from Star Trek in real life, I knew what that is. I don't know. Which weapon would you guys like to own in that universe? Ooh, dude, there's a lot of vicious weapon.
Hand
I
phaser.
mean, obviously, the phaser. The phaser is just the easiest thing because you know what? I don't have to kill you to incapacitate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I could use a hand phaser, but with my love of martial weapons and swords and bladed things, any of the Klingon swords would be freaking amazing.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't mind a
Good.
batlet. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I fought you two, I'd win because I just shoot you. Okay.
I would say Shrek's is a hand cannon from the lower decks.
Mm,
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
yeah,
I like Shrek.
that would work.
All right, next one.
She would like to see Tom Hanks in a Star Trek movie or show. That would be cool.
I know
I
he's
could
a
see-
fan.
I could see him as like an aging admiral or a commodore. That would be cool.
Or a Q. I could see him as a Q.
Dude,
Mm.
Tom Hanks as a Q would be funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Hey, do you guys think we're gonna see a
movie
Q?
written by Quentin Tarantino? Good
Yeah,
one,
Quentin
number.
Tarantino as well. But
Yeah.
do you guys think we'll see a Q in this? I think we'll see a Q by the time the series is over.
Well, the original series had Trelane, who has been retconned as a Q.
Yeah, the baby
Um,
Q. Yeah,
He's a young Q, member of the Continuum. So
Yeah.
maybe. I don't
maybe.
know.
We'll see.
All right, next one.
Okay, we're gonna keep this out. I didn't mean to go into Snyder, Chappie. We're gonna have to hold on to that question for another time.
Yeah.
This one.
Also,
Is
question.
it
Don't mean
off
to go off
topic?
topic, but isn't Snyder still have his deal with Netflix just with Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon? And what would he be at Paramount for?
He only has first look deals with Netflix. So he does not have
Yeah.
an exclusive contract with Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Netflix can never stop him from doing something that is Marvel, DC, or Paramount because Netflix can only be IPs, original IPs.
Yeah.
They don't have the permission to license those IPs, so he can
Yeah,
do those if he wanted to.
The first look deal is the J.J. Abrams deal at WB that went nowhere fast. So something might come of it, something might not, and we're good on the questions, I believe.
All right. Anybody, any final thoughts about this episode before we wrap it up?
I just wanted to go into briefly where they got the title for the episode. Among the Lotus Eaters actually comes from Greek mythology. It was a part of the Odyssey. Odysseus has to face the Lotus Eaters, which causes him and his people, him and his crew to start forgetting what their mission was and where they were headed home. So it's kind of the concept of forgetting. That's where the title of the episode comes from.
All right. Now I'm hungry for lotuses, but instead I'm going to eat Sister Kim's, a better substitute.
Ooh, shrimp fries.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go all out today because I haven't been eating this week because of allergies. I've just been eating stuff just to keep me going and drinking a lot of fluids because the stuff I've been taking for my allergies dries me out.
Yeah.
So I plus 100-degree. It was 112 on 4th of July. I'm like, oh, okay, that sucks. And then I can't breathe. So I've been drinking a lot of water, but I haven't really chowed down on my favorite foods of the week. So now,
go
I've
for
been
what
eating
you're craving
Pop-Tarts.
because that's what your body wants.
Yeah, Pop Tarts and top ramen, pretty much what I've subsisted on, and water. So, and like I said, it's all microwavable. So I've been living like hell. All right,
on protein and zinc for your immune
system. We're going to be back. Hopefully, Vince is with us next Wednesday, so I don't destroy the show again.
Yeah, I just have to take a nap when I get home from work.
All right, cool. So we'll do our watch party next Wednesday, and we'll do our weekly things. And like I said, don't catch us tomorrow night on my channel, youtube.com/at the Sci-Fi Center for our Saturday night live overnight show. This will be the first time we're going all exclusive on that show. So if you haven't already subscribed to that channel, go ahead. And because like I said, that's where that show will be. And I got a new show that I'm working on called Wrestle Sunday. And that'll be on both channels. And that will basically, as soon as I know, you're welcome, Aaron. As soon as I know exactly where Enosh is going to be streaming, usually from before Sunday nights was a big night for Enosh to stream. If he does not stream on Sunday, then at some point I'm going to put Wrestle Sunday either before or after that show, or I might pre-record it on Poindexter Lounge and then air it live on the other channel. But I know there's a lot of wrestling fans that are on the Poindexter Lounge, and I need to address my wrestle geeks. Other than that, we will see you guys tomorrow night, and the next time we see you, and the next time we see you live on both channels will be next Wednesday for the live watch party, unless I get a hair up my ass and I decide to go ahead and just stream out of nowhere, which means you'll probably see me a lot sooner than that. All right, for Thade, for Vince, for Stella, that's our show for this week. Thank you guys for being here. Live long and
prosper, everybody.
Okay, so now we all got to come up with a saying now. You caught me off guard, damn it. All right, well, I'll come up with something next week.
What's your captain saying, William?
Yeah.
What the hell are you people doing? All right, guys. Oh, man, my outro won't work.
Uh-oh.
We came back.
We can't leave.
I love my outro. Why isn't it working? Do you know what StreamYard, you sons of...